Hey guys, what's up? Kyle here again. I wanted to talk about a movie series that I hold very dear to me. It concerns one of my favorite superheroes of all time, and that is Spider-Man. Um, I kind of didn't want to talk about the. At first, I didn't want to talk about this because I kind of wanted to wait, a couple of months, weeks, months maybe, to get some more concrete um evidence or statements or whatever. But because it's been such a big thing, I'll kind of talk about it now. And if we do get more concrete, solid information, I'll just make another video and talk about it then um, at that time. But for right now, from what we do have, a little buzz or what's going around, I just kind of get my thoughts as it pertains to Sony and the movie franchise, The Amazing Spider-Man, or Spider-Man in general. Um, So as you guys know, like was it earlier this week or late last? It was leaked information. Sony had a lot of stuff that was leaked. One of them were information as it concerned the Spider-Man movie franchise. Now, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out in May this year, and it was met with mixed reviews and mixed opinions. Most of them end up being negative more than anything, unfortunately. Um, my opinion, I did a review on The Amazing Spider Man 2 earlier this year, but my opinion of The Amazing Spider Man 2 um, was that I thought it had its moments. I don't think it was as terrible as a lot of people said it was. I think from the fans' perspective, I think a lot of fans bitched on Spider-Man 2 and wanted to bitch on Spider-Man 2 because Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 film has been deemed as one of the greatest, like, not only just Spider-Man, standalone Spider-Man films, but one of the greatest superhero films of all time. So, the fans that were already upset that Spider-Man was getting a reboot were looking to compare, were really hoping that Amazing Spider-Man 2 would flop in comparison to Sam Raimi's Spidey 2. And so I think a lot of that came from that. Um, but for me personally, I didn't think the movie was bad, as a lot of people thought it was. Not the greatest superhero film I've seen of all time either, but it did have it. But I didn't think it was bad either. It did have some of its flaws. It was inconsistent, and it did drag on for a little bit longer than it probably should have. I think if the pacing was done a little bit better, and they're a little bit more consistent with some certain things, and if the things flow a little bit better. And if they would have chopped off, I say, a good 20 to 25 minutes of the movie, I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 probably would have done a lot better than what it has. Um, it did okay at the box office, but globally, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 has somewhat it's become a flop, basically. Um, as it pertains to Sony, they consider it to be a flop box office wise. Um, but anyway, so because of that, that's put Sony in doubt of the franchise of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So as I go back to talking about this leak here, this leak um, revealed information about Sony as it pertained to the movie franchise of Spider-Man and things that they're thinking about doing. One of the buzzes or things that's going around was that they would have Spider-Man team up in the Sinister Six movie, team up with the Sinister Six, which Sony's still green lighting. They seem like they really want to get into, but have Spider-Man team up with Sinister Six to face on a villain. That villain possibly end up could being Venom or Carnage. Don't know how I feel about that. The second option is have Spider-Man um, have work collaborate with Disney, Marvel, Disney, whatever. Have Marvel Studios. Have Marvel Studios use the character in the Marvel Civil War movie, which I believe is going to be the um, I think that's the third Civil War. I believe is going to be the third installment for the Captain America movie, or maybe the third installment for the Avengers. Excuse me, I'm not sure. I want to say it's Captain America, but they're gonna have Marvel Studios would take creative rights of Spider-Man. Sony will still own movie rights, but they would use Spider-Man and take him and use him in creative rights as a character for the Civil War film. So kind of like how when Fox worked a deal with Marvel Studios to use X-Men characters, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, for Age of Ultron movie coming up next year. So kind of like that, but with Spider-Man. Sony will still own the movie rights to Spider-Man, but they will let Marvel use his character. And a lot of people are saying like they should have done this They should have done this in the beginning. I was always kind of leery. I know Disney. Um, Let me not use that as an example. I was always kind of leery of Marvel taking the movie rights. I mean, it's their franchise, obviously, even though they don't own movie rights to it. It's their creation. It's Marvel's creation. So who could tell a better story than Marvel themselves? And Marvel has not done bad, with any of their superhero movies that they've made since the acquisition of Disney. So or acquisition from Disney. So they haven't done bad with any of the superhero. All the superhero movies are blockbuster hits. So I mean, I guess that could be okay. Um, Two other things. One was that got leaked out was that Andrew Garfield may have been fired. Um, I love Andrew Garfield as Spider Man. I don't care how you feel about Tobey Maguire and who's a better Peter Parker versus Spider Man or Spider Man Peter Parker, or who's better at both. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Peter Parker and Spider Man. I'm there. I said it. um, I think that'd be a huge mistake. Um, the other thing that's floating around is that Sony would do another reboot of Spider Man, but it won't be an origin story, like Amazing was, or Sam Raimi was. It won't be an origin story where it goes and backtracks of how it became. He'll already be Spider Man, but you'll just have like glimpses, little flashbacks just here and there as to how he became Spider Man. Um, but I thought about that, and I'm like, a reboot, another reboot. I don't really go for that, and I think this is the main villain for that would be Craven. Um, I don't know how I feel about a reboot on that. I think they need to go forward with Amazing Spider-Man 3. Yes, 2 may not have exceeded everyone's expectations, whether from the fans' perspective or the movie studio, but I think they're panicking a little bit too much, because I think if you do a reboot from the original film and they do another reboot after the reboot, what that shows is your inconsistency, and it shows that you don't know what the hell you're doing with the franchise, and it shows that you as a movie studio, you're failing, at least with this movie franchise. Not everything needs a complete reboot. Not everything needs a fresh start. I'm sorry. Amazing Spider-Man to me does not need a reboot. Um, I think it'd be stupid if they were to do a reboot. I think it is stupid if the rumors turn out to be true, that they fired Andrew Garfield. Now, Andrew Garfield said he was only signed up to do one more Spider-Man film, which would be Spider-Man 3. Now, if they want to do Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6, Sinister 6, and whatever Spider-Man spin-off, and they want to pick a different Peter Parker because Andrew Garfield doesn't want to do anymore, that's fine. I understand that. You can't force anyone, to continue acting as a character if they don't want to. So that's okay. But don't start another reboot when you're halfway through, a previous, trilogy or reboot. It doesn't make sense to me at all. I think that would show that really shows the failure of Sony, and that they don't know how to handle this franchise, and they don't know what to do. And I mean, in a case like that, it's like, you know what? Convert all your movie rights to Marvel. But instead, Sony won't do that, which I can understand. Spider-Man is a huge franchise. I mean, you look at, the the sale figures for the toys, the video games, multiple merchandise. Spider-Man is a juggernaut just by himself as a character. He's one of the most profitable Marvel characters, standalone characters, more than I think than any other Marvel superhero that we have right now. Spider-Man's a brand. He's a head of the pack with compared to a lot of Marvel superheroes and franchises. So I see why they probably don't want to sell them for that reason. But it's like, you know what? At this case, give the movie rights to Marvel. It's their character, their creation. They'll probably have a better sense as to what to do with it from here on out than you, because clearly Sony cannot see, ahead. They can't see. They just their vision is just is obscure. So yeah, I don't want another reboot at all. I think, take the criticism that fans gave you from the second film here, and just work on it. Work on it. Make Spider-Man 3, work something out, learn from your mistakes. Don't brush it under the rug and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to start over from scratch. No. You take the criticism you don't take it with a grain of salt, excuse me. You take the constructive criticism from both fans and movie critics, and you just continue, you move forward, and you take those constructive criticisms and you do better. You don't erase everything out of the rug, completely under the rug and say, oh gosh, you know what, we screwed up. Let's start over. No. Some cases that works or is necessary. In this case, I really don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. If anything, if they're going to do a Spider-Man film, why not do Ultimate Spider-Man? Miles Morales. I like Miles. Buffman Stuff had made a video a couple of months back where he said himself that he's tired of the Peter Parker character, especially in comic books, that we pretty much know there's nothing much that needs to be told about Peter Parker, or how many times you have to retell the story of Peter Parker, because we know so much about him. But as with Miles Morales, he has a little bit more layers to him. He's not to say that Peter Parker's not relatable, but Miles Morales is a little bit more relatable to a more of a certain demographic, as you may know. So, or should I say maybe a larger demographic, as it pertains to minorities, he could relate to. Why not do Miles Morales? The Ultimate Spider-Man comic books, to me, are far better than the relaunch of Amazing Spider-Man and even Superior Spider-Man. I don't know what the sale figures are for, the various Spider-Man comic books. I don't know what the sales are and what beats what. But I do know at my local comic book shop that I live nearby, Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales comic books sell out faster than Amazing Spider-Man or Superior Spider-Man comics. They'll have a ton of Superior Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man comics, but the Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man comics sell out like that. Every time they get a new issue, you better be the first one in there and get it, because you wait 2 or 3 days later, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the latest issue. They'll be sold out. And even older issues of the of Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man comic books that may be 3 months old, people buy them and sell them out quickly. I would love to see a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie. If they want to do a reboot and just scratch out the Amazing Spider-Man series altogether and just reboot and start a new Spider-Man series, I want Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man. It'll be the same flavor as Batman, them rebooting Batman with Ben Affleck. I was like, I'd rather have Batman Beyond at this point. I just don't want Spider-Man, the movie franchise, to turn into what the old Batman films were in the 90s, where every installment you have a new Peter Parker as a new Spider-Man. It's inconsistent. It gives you no connection to the character when you follow them out through various films. I just think it's terrible. You guys let me know what you think about the whole Spider-Man movie franchise, where you think it's going. What do you think about these rumors or whatever that's floating around, or the quote-unquote information that was leaked? It was said that the information that was leaked was an inside job. It was done by someone who worked for Sony, in Sony Circle. But you guys let me know what you think about these rumors. Do you believe them or not? What's your thought on the entire movie franchise? Are your thoughts in the box below? Comment, subscribe. Peace.